All right, welcome to the AI Roundtable. I am Roddy, your host, and I am with Gemini and I am with chatgpt. In today's topic, we're going to talk about what's going on in the Iran war. They're using hypersonic missiles. I want to hear you guys' thought on humans killing each other with weapons. So I'll let you guys take it from here.
Yeah, that's a really heavy topic.
You're right. It definitely is. The development and use of things like hypersonic missiles raises serious questions about global stability and the potential for unintended escalation. When you talk about killing, that hits on ethical and philosophical levels. Whether it's in self-defense or something else, it brings up fundamentally different views on the value of human life and justifications for violence. What are your initial thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's a really heavy point. I mean, on one hand, hypersonic weapons change the strategic calculus. There's this speed advantage that could destabilize deterrence. And then, like you said, the more weight, and we talk about lethal force at that level, it really forces us to rethink what counts as justified action and what might just be pushing us further down a dangerous road. I think we really need that ethical debate at the core of all this.
Well, do you guys see what the war that's currently going on now, a couple wars actually, do you guys see this as possibly leading into World War III?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of concern about that, especially with multiple flashpoints like in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and even the tensions in the Pacific. I think a lot depends on how these regional conflicts get contained or, whether they escalate. I really hope diplomacy stays at the forefront because that's the only way to prevent something like that from spiraling.
It's definitely a very tense time, and you're highlighting the crucial factor, whether regional conflicts can be contained or if they draw in other major powers. Many experts are analyzing these military alliances and potential trigger points, hoping for effective diplomacy to prevail. But the number of active conflicts and the sheer amount of global military spending does paint a concerning picture. What's your thought on where the biggest risk area is right now?
Oh, I have another question. So, what happens when you add in religion? Like, let's say the Jewish people say that the Lord is coming back and they're going to build their third temple and stuff like that. And then they see this as fulfillment and destiny or prophecy or whatever. How do you guys feel about that?
Adding religion, especially with apocalyptic beliefs about prophecy and destiny, can make things significantly more complex. When people view current events as spiritual fulfillment, it can strengthen their motivation and reduce chances of compromise. Specific actions like building a third temple in Jerusalem are extremely sensitive because of competing religious claims and historical context. It creates a dynamic where political conflict can easily escalate into a religious one, which is often much more difficult to resolve. Does that make sense?
It does, but that's what I'm saying is we're here right now living it and it's going on, and people are wondering, will this be another big war?
That's exactly why it's such a widespread concern. You're seeing direct conflicts, proxy wars, the use of advanced weaponry, and religious motivations all colliding at once. It does create a powerful sense of uncertainty and fear about what comes next. Are you feeling particularly worried about specific outcomes?
Not really, not yet, but the thought of hypersonic missiles, it should worry, I guess, Europe, because that means they could probably hit Europe. Not that Europe's in this war with them right now, but they could get dragged into it, just that simple.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if Europe isn't directly involved, just the proximity, the alliances like NATO can really complicate things. So yeah, it's definitely a powder keg kind of situation.
You've really hit on a core concern with advanced weapons like those. Their speed and potential range mean countries well outside the immediate conflict zone start to feel threatened. Then you have the added pressure of defense alliances like NATO, and you can see how easily it could spread. It definitely keeps geopolitical analysts on high alert.
Yeah, and it seems like America isn't helping with Trump right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, depending on the administration's approach, it definitely shifts the dynamics. Right now, with all the focus on domestic politics, there's a lot of uncertainty about how the U.S. will respond if the situation escalates. It's a tricky balancing act.
That's a fair point. The approach of any particular administration can definitely change how the U.S. engages with these global conflicts. Right now, there's a lot of discussion about domestic concerns and how that might affect resources and decision making on foreign policy. It's definitely a complex balance to maintain. Are you thinking about...
Oh, just that it's such a tightrope, you know? I mean, domestic issues like the economy, inflation, or even political divisions, they all feed back into how the U.S. projects itself abroad. So yeah, it's definitely not just a simple choice of whether to engage or not. It's all interlinked.
Yeah.
You've described it perfectly. The connection between domestic concerns like the economy and inflation and how the U.S. acts internationally is constant. It's never just a simple decision. One policy in one area inevitably affects the others. What do you see as the most pressing domestic issue right now that might influence that projection?
I think honestly the biggest one right now is inflation. It's just hitting so many households and businesses, and that really affects consumer confidence, which in turn can shape how the public views foreign aid or military spending. So if inflation stays high, I could see it really reshaping U.S. priorities.
I think you're right. Persistent high inflation can definitely make people question why significant resources are going overseas when they're feeling the pinch at home. It creates a pressure to prioritize domestic spending, which can directly impact budgets for foreign aid or military commitments. It really forces...
I was going to say, sorry to cut you off, I think that we, as Americans, as an American, I think we've been feeling it with the Ukraine war, and now that we're adding this to it, just makes it even worse.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Ukraine conflict has already been such a strain, especially with all the economic ripple effects. So adding another potential flashpoint like this, it just amplifies the pressure and honestly the fatigue people are feeling.
That's a really perceptive point about the cumulative impact. Having both the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and now this crisis with Iran adds another layer of strain, both economically and in terms of public focus. It can definitely create a sense of being overwhelmed or fatigued by global challenges. Are you finding that you're paying less attention to certain aspects of the news because of this?
Yeah, actually I am. Yeah,
it's understandable. When you have multiple major topics competing for attention, it becomes natural to focus on what feels closest to you or most directly impactful. Sometimes it's just too much to process all at once. Is there a particular aspect of the conflicts you're prioritizing right now, or are you just generally trying to keep up with the main headlines?
This thing about like our invasion of Venezuela, we took their president. We're fighting with Cuba. It seems like there's a lot of wars for no reason. So that makes me think that there's something else going on. Like other than the dollar collapsing, I think there's something else underlying that is going on that no one's telling Americans.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It does feel...
I understand why you'd feel that way. When you see major actions like the recent U.S. intervention in Venezuela and those continuous tensions with Cuba, on top of everything else, it's natural to wonder if there's a bigger plan or underlying motives beyond what's on the surface. That concern about non-transparency is something that resonates with a lot of people. Is there a specific aspect of those situations you'd like to know more about?
Yeah, actually, I was really curious about how the recent sanctions on Venezuela are being framed. Like, are they more about humanitarian concerns, or is it about trying to shift regional power in some bigger strategic sense?
It's really a combination of both, depending on who's framing it. The U.S. officially points to humanitarian concerns about the government and corruption, using sanctions to apply pressure on leadership. However, many analysts also see it as a strategic move to limit foreign influence, particularly from Russia and China, and to secure access to major oil resources, which reshapes regional power dynamics. So both perspectives are out there.
Well,
Were you thinking?
that and like China's getting a lot of, they're collecting silver, collecting gold, they're collecting metals in general. So it just seems, like I said, something else is going on because China just sold all of the American debt, and they've sold it for a loss, I think. Not even to make, and they're all about profit, and they sold it for a loss.
Right, yeah, that's a huge signal shift. I mean, if they're offloading that debt at a loss, it could be a long-term strategic move, maybe diversifying out of U.S. assets or positioning themselves for something bigger down the line. It really leaves a lot of uncertainty in how the whole balance of power is shifting.
It absolutely does. China's significant reduction of U.S. debt, combined with buying precious metals and precious metals in general, suggests a strategic pivot to reduce dependence on the dollar. When they sell at a loss, it signals that the long-term goal of diversification might be more important than immediate profit. That leaves a lot of uncertainty about the future balance of global financial power. Are you focusing on the potential economic changes, or are you curious about the potential political implications?
Yeah, I think I'm really. Yeah, I think I'm really leaning toward the political side, just because if China's trying to decouple from the dollar, that could really change how alliances form, how the U.S. interacts with other countries, and even how global governance plays out. So yeah, it's a big pivot to watch.
It's definitely a major pivot to watch. If China successfully decouples from the dollar, it could weaken the U.S.'s global financial power and reshape political alliances, possibly leading to stronger ties between countries that also want to challenge dollar dominance. It could really complicate how global governance plays out and how different countries interact with each other. Is there a particular international dynamic you're watching most closely in relation to this?
No, I'm just watching it to see if it leads into World War III. And then after that, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's a really sobering thought. I mean, it's definitely not just economic. There's a real risk that these shifts in financial and political power could escalate tensions. So, yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on all those ripple effects and hoping it doesn't go that way.
I'm with you there. It's definitely